Have you ever been trapped in a place where even breathing feels like a luxury? Where every wall seems to mock your existence, every locked door a symbol of your helplessness? Now imagine this isn't a metaphor, it's your cold, brutal reality. Welcome to Alcatraz. Dear listener, before we move forward, please subscribe my channel for more interesting stories. The Rock, a prison built not just to cage bodies, but to crush souls. An island fortress where the most dangerous men in America were sent to disappear. No one escaped. No one even tried. The very thought of breaking out was considered lunacy. But then came a man who didn't believe in the impossible. Clint Eastwood's Frank Morris, a man with no patience for pity, no tolerance for defeat. For Morris, those towering walls weren't barriers, they were challenges. For every inmate who had accepted their fate, Morris saw a blueprint for freedom. But this wasn't a Hollywood script. It was a fight for survival against an enemy you couldn't shoot or punch, confinement itself. And Morris wasn't willing to let his story end inside a concrete tomb. This is the story of how one man armed with nothing but grit, wit, and a spoon turned the most secure prison in America into a stepping stone to legend. Are you ready to find out how Clint Eastwood's Frank Morris outsmarted Alcatraz? Alcatraz wasn't designed like other prisons. It wasn't just a collection of cells and barred windows. It was a monument to hopelessness. Sitting like a grim sentinel in the icy waters of San Francisco Bay, it loomed as a symbol of ultimate confinement. For years, The Rock was where the government sent men they wanted forgotten. But Frank Morris wasn't the kind of man you could bury behind stone walls. Portrayed by Clint Eastwood with his steely resolve, Morris was different, quiet, calculating. The kind of man who would notice the smallest crack in the system and file it away like a weapon. Where others saw walls, he saw weaknesses. Where others heard the clang of defeat, he listened for opportunity. The day Morris arrived at Alcatraz, the guards barely glanced at him. To them, he was just another inmate on a one-way trip to oblivion. But Morris had no intention of being forgotten. He didn't care about the myths that Alcatraz was escape-proof. He knew every lock was designed by a man, and if a man made it, a man could break it. Eastwood's performance wasn't just acting. It was a reflection of a truth we all understand deep down. The human spirit wasn't built to be caged. This wasn't going to be a prison sentence. It was going to be a challenge. And Frank Morris? He was about to accept it. Frank Morris wasn't just trapped behind bars. He was locked inside a fortress built to crush hope. Alcatraz wasn't known as The Rock for nothing. The prison was a masterpiece of isolation, miles of frigid, shark-infested waters, razor-sharp schedules, and guards who'd seen every escape attempt fail. The message was clear: you're not getting out. But Morris wasn't the type to flinch at impossible odds. Every day, the walls seemed to close in tighter. The guards didn't need to beat you. The monotony did the job for them. Same routine, same cold concrete, same reminder that you'd been erased from the world. Yet, Morris had something most inmates lost early on: focus. His challenge wasn't just physical. It was psychological warfare. The prison was designed to make you believe escape was pointless. Guards would scoff at whispers of breakout attempts, mocking anyone who dared to dream. The sheer logistics of escaping, avoiding guard patrols, dismantling steel vents, and surviving the icy currents made it a 1 in a million shot. But to Morris, 1 in a million was better than 0. For him, the real enemy wasn't Alcatraz. It was time. Every second he spent confined was a second closer to being broken. He knew he wasn't just planning an escape. He was planning to reclaim his dignity, his autonomy, his identity. The Rock had a reputation to uphold. But so did Frank Morris. And as Clint Eastwood's eyes narrowed, you could tell Morris wasn't leaving in chains. He was leaving on his own terms. Frank Morris didn't storm out of Alcatraz with brute force. He chipped away at it, silently, methodically. Each night, as the prison lights dimmed and guards settled into their rhythm, Morris became an architect of his own freedom. Armed with nothing but a spoon, a common utensil turned into a weapon of defiance, he started digging through the crumbling concrete around the ventilation grates of his cell. He knew patience was his greatest ally. Loud movements would mean instant detection, so he learned to move like a shadow, matching every scrape of his spoon with the groaning metal sounds of the prison's aging pipes. Every inch of progress felt like a personal victory over the system, designed to crush him. But Morris wasn't working alone. He recruited a small group of inmates, each playing a vital role. They crafted lifelike dummy heads from soap, toilet paper, and hair from the barber shop. Decoys so convincing they could fool even the sharpest guard during night roll calls. By day, they collected raincoats and stitched them together in secret, creating a makeshift raft and life vests, all under the noses of Alcatraz's so-called infallible security. The plan was audacious, but the execution was clinical. Every creak in the floorboards became part of their symphony of escape. Every glance from a guard was a reminder to stay invisible. Morris became a master at reading people, knowing when a guard's attention would drift, when to pause, and when to dig. For weeks, they created a tunnel behind the wall vent, hidden behind a cardboard grill, inching closer to the prison's utility corridor, a place most inmates never knew existed. This wasn't a Hollywood montage. It was real, grueling work that demanded nerve and discipline. Failure meant solitary confinement, or worse. But with every spoonful of concrete removed, Morris wasn't just building a tunnel, he was building a chance at life beyond the bars, a chance to prove that even the Rock could be broken. June 11th, 1962. The night was different. There was a tension in the air, a hum that only those who had been waiting for months could feel. The guards followed their usual routine, unaware that beneath their feet, Frank Morris and his crew were enacting the impossible. This wasn't just an escape. This was history being written silently. Frank carefully placed the dummy head on his pillow, adjusting it under the dim light until it looked like he was peacefully asleep. The craftsmanship was so perfect that even a flashlight wouldn't betray the illusion. With his heart pounding, but his hands steady, he removed the grill covering the hole in his cell wall and crawled through into the dark service corridor. The air was thick with dust, and every breath felt like inhaling a piece of the prison itself. The narrow ducts were claustrophobic, yet Morris moved with the focus of a man who knew there was no turning back. They navigated the pitch-black maze, their only light coming from a makeshift periscope crafted from stolen mirror shards, reaching the utility corridor. The crew quickly assembled their handmade raft, stitched from over 50 raincoats and slung their gear over their shoulders. Time was razor thin. Any delay, a sneeze, or a loose bolt could bring guards running. When they reached the outer vent, Morris took a deep breath and forced the rotting ventilation grill loose, emerging into the cold, open night. The brutal winds of San Francisco. Bay slapped against his face, but for the first time, it wasn't a wall. It was freedom. The water was an unforgiving monster. Dark, freezing, and swirling with deadly currents. But Morris didn't flinch. With the raft inflated, they slipped into the icy waves, paddling furiously under the cloak of night. No alarms rang. No spotlights flashed. Just the rhythmic splash of paddles and the silent roar of defiance as they vanished into the fog. That was the moment Alcatraz cracked, not with a bang, but with the quiet, relentless determination of a man who refused to be caged. No one ever saw Frank Morris or his fellow escapees again. The official story claims they drowned, that the icy currents of San Francisco Bay swallowed them whole. But deep down, no one really believes that. The prison gods never forgot that night, haunted by the idea that their perfect fortress had been outsmarted by a man with a spoon and a dream. The FBI spent years searching, always one step behind a ghost that refused to be caught. For Clint Eastwood, playing Frank Morris wasn't just about telling a prison break story. It was about showing the world what relentless willpower looks like when it refuses to bow down. He didn't portray Morris as a superhero or an outlaw. He portrayed him as a man who, when told it's impossible, responded with, "Watch me." Escape from Alcatraz became more than just a film. It became a symbol of defiance against systems designed to crush the human spirit. Eastwood's quiet intensity, his calculating calmness, made audiences believe that freedom isn't always won by force, but by patience, precision, and a refusal to accept the walls built around you. The beauty of the story isn't in weather. Frank Morris made it to freedom. The real triumph lies in the fact that he dared to try. And Clint Eastwood, with every narrowed gaze and deliberate move, immortalized that spirit for generations. Years later, tourists still flock to Alcatraz, staring at the empty cell that once housed Morris. They whisper about the man who escaped, inspired not just by the possibility of his success, but by the sheer audacity of his attempt. And that's what Clint Eastwood's portrayal reminds us. Sometimes, legends aren't born on battlefields or stages. Sometimes they're carved quietly, one chipped wall at a time, by those who simply refuse to stay trapped. Now, I want to hear from you. After hearing about Clint Eastwood's legendary portrayal of Frank Morris and the daring escape from Alcatraz, do you believe that sheer willpower can break even the strongest walls? Drop a comment below with the words, "Never give up," if you believe that no prison physical or mental can hold back a determined spirit. But this is just one chapter in Eastwood's book of iconic roles. His career is filled with characters who refuse to bow down, who stand tall in the face of overwhelming odds. From the man with no name in Sergio Leone's westerns to the iron-willed Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry, Eastwood's filmography is a masterclass in grit, resolve, and quiet defiance. If you're hungry for more stories where Clint Eastwood blurs the line between man and myth, make sure to watch our next video where we uncover the truth behind Eastwood's real-life near-death experiences during his early days in Hollywood. Trust me, You'll be shocked to see how often life threw him into survival mode, both on screen and off. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon, so you never miss an epic story of resilience, rebellion, and raw human spirit. These stories aren't just entertainment, they're lessons on how to stand up when life tries to knock you down. So, what do you think really happened that night at Alcatraz? Do you believe Frank Morris made it to freedom? Or is his escape a mystery that will forever haunt the waves of San Francisco Bay? Let's debate in the comments. Remember, the walls they build around you are only as strong as your will to break them.